Okay, we are ready to build our models. But what are conversions? Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another back to basics video for you. As always, this series is aimed at beginners. I really hope it is useful to you. In this episode, we're going to have a chat about conversions as we prepare for the next episode, where the next episode I'm actually going to take everything that we've learned so far and I'm going to build a Space Marine on camera for you to see all of those techniques in action. But first, let's have a talk about conversions. Okay, so what is a conversion? Well, when you get to your models, you usually get an instruction book or at least some artwork of a concept of what the model should look like. And a conversion is basically changing that concept with your own vision, your own ideas. Now that can be as simple as just building this model exactly the same as the instruction book, but then, as we previously discussed, putting it onto a different base, maybe a resin base, a more scenic base. And in my mind's eye, that's a conversion because you are changing things. Now, obviously, that's very basic, and you can go as advanced as you want to in converting. And in this video, what I want to do is basically, I'm going to run through some of my models, some of my conversions, in hope of sort of inspiring you, maybe giving you some ideas, maybe just opening your eyes up to stuff that is achievable, yeah, I really hope it's useful. So let's have a look at some conversions that I've done over the years. So I'm going to start off with my Necrons. So this is my Necron Lord. Now the Necron Lord is a metal model, or it was when it came out, when I bought it, and there was only one model, one pose, effectively. So you build one model, great, looks cool, and then you want another Lord, you build that, but you don't want two models that look exactly the same. So usually that's a good starting point to get yourself into conversions, is basically to change the poses of models. So in this instance, with this metal model, what I did is on my next model, which is this one here, as you can see, I changed his right arm, just put the different right arm on. Now the kit came with two different arms, so that was great. And then on his left arm, as you can see, I've totally removed it. So I cut off his left arm here and also removed it down the bottom. Now I did it before I put it on the base so I could get in. I actually filed down the area where the Staff of Light, the Warside was. And then I went in and I put a magnet into his little armpit, as we've talked about in magnetising videos. And then I got another Warside. Now this is from a different kit. This is from the Destroyer Lord kit, and of course put a magnet on the end. And now I have a totally different poseable Lord. And not only that, because I've magnetised it, and the reason why I magnetised it was so that I could have different weapon options as well. So we have the Staff of Light. Sorry about this, just getting used to this angle of camera. So there you go. So a good step to getting into conversions, effectively to change a model from one pose to another. So let's just put those aside. So next in the Necron range, I'm going to have a look at the Destroyer Lord. So this is the traditional Destroyer Lord as it comes. And once again, I wanted a second Destroyer Lord, and I wanted that Destroyer Lord to sit in with my Wraith unit. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to do a Wraith Destroyer Lord, which is what I did. So that's this guy here. So this guy here has basically a Wraith body at the bottom there, which I cut the Wraith off. I used the ball joint from the Destroyer Lord to get the Destroyer Lord top sort of mounted to that Wraith body, and I put a little cape on there because although this doesn't have a cape, it needs a bit of extra detail, so I just found a cape that I had in my bits box. And again, very simple conversion, but it looks really cool, and it looks totally different from the other Destroy Lord, which is one of the key reasons for making that model. So that's one reason why you would do conversions. The other reason you may do a conversion is because you have some bits missing. So I've got a little flayed one here. Now this flayed one, I had the claw at the top, but I had no claw at the bottom, so I had to make a conversion. So what I did is I used some Hormagaunt scything talons from Tyranids, and I made 3 of those, cut them into the shapes of these up here, glued them on, and then I went in with a bit of green stuff, and I did some green stuff skin just to hide the join. And I have to be honest, it looks so close that it took me a while to find this model in my case, one that I'd actually converted. And it's these little small touches which really does make a difference. And like I said, sometimes you're just forced into making conversions, and that's going to bring me nicely onto my Tyranids, because the Tyranids went through a stage of not having models for units in the codex. Now this is something GW don't really do now, as far as I'm aware. I don't think they do it at all, but at one point they did. And this here is a Tervagon. This is my old Tervagon conversion that I did. It's basically made from a Carnifex. I beefed up the model with some green stuff here just to make him a bit wider. Underneath there, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got the spawning belly with a Gant coming out of it. Put the scything talons on just to try to make it into a Tervagon model a little bit more. And then these little vents on the tops, the one down the middle, that is made from green stuff. Looks pretty cool, it looks effective. It was pretty simple conversion, to be fair. And I've also really liked this little touch. Got a magnetised Gant on there, which I found some magnetised rocks, a little box of like novelty rocks that had magnets. And yeah, put it on the end of his foot and it goes in like so. So I can use that as a marker, so when he spawns and he gets constipated, he can't spawn anymore, I can just take that Gant off. And indeed, this goes onto a base, so I can actually use it in my army. So yeah, sometimes you just have to scratch build because there aren't models around. And I did that with my old Duma Melanti model. Just used a original Zone Throats. Went to my bits box, put these bits on here and down here. I also lengthened the towel, used a gargoyle towel, just pinned and green stuffed that. We talked about pinning and green stuff. And then, lastly for the Tyranids, I'm going to show you basically 3 models from each of my armies. This model here, the Brood Lord. Now this is a very, very awesome model, but it's not very posable. There's not a lot that you could do with it, I found. However, I had 2 of these and I really did want to change them up. So what I did is I did this. Now, at initial glance, it doesn't look too much different, but there is a difference. I remounted the base section, so it was the other way round, and I also cut his leg off, and I repositioned his leg into this sort of upward position, so it looks like he's leaping a little bit more, and he's obviously facing downwards more than the other one. So that is that little conversion. Okay, I'm going to move on now to my Eldar. So we've talked about scratch building, and I'm going to show you my scratch built flyer, I think, next. Okay, now I'm going to have to zoom right out, I think, here. There you go. So this is my Crimson Hunter, stroke whatever the other one is that I haven't used yet. It's basically an old Falcon that I was given. It was in a right state, the turrets were all glued on, etc. And I restored that, and as you can see, I converted it up. I put the Crimson Hunter wings on here and here. I have magnetised a lot of this. This comes off. The front gun comes off. That's a Forge World section on there. I've also got these magnetised as well. And really happy with this, to be honest with you. I think it's a really nice conversion. I put a little cross in there so I could put it onto one of the big flying bases. I did some sort of different engines. This here is just made from a plastic tube, just bent around, just there. And this is where you'll find, not only is it a good idea to have a healthy bits box, never throw anything away, even just sprue. You know, the sprue that you take off, don't throw that away, because that can be really useful. If you look at my Cities of Death buildings, if you look at the floors of them, all the rubble, that's made from sprue, just cut up sprue. And not only don't throw sprues away, but before you put anything in the bin, have a good look at it and think, can I use that for something? Because there's always something that, you know, little bits and pieces that can be quite useful that usually you might just chuck away. Now, I wasn't going to chuck this away, but it does bring me on to the fact that you don't necessarily have to use Games Workshop bits to make something. So this here is my Batlith sword from my Wraith Knight. Now I really wanted a Batlith in my Eldar army. Originally I was going to do a plasticard one, maybe on a Farseer, but then I came across an old toy that I had. It was a sort of Klingon Star Trek figure, and he had this Batlith, and when I got the Wraith Knight, it was the perfect scale for a Wraith Knight, and I thought, I'm going to have that, I'm going to use it. So I cut it off, I've glued his arm in there, basically cut a gap out and put his arm in there, or his hand, sorry, and then obviously painted it up in my Eldar colours. How cool is that? So you don't necessarily have to use Games Workshop bits. And the good thing is that now I've done this conversion, I now have the sword that I didn't use. So effectively now I've got a spare sword. So if I do another Wraith Knight, I plan on having a double-sworded Wraith Knight. So once again, just keep all of the bits that you don't use. It's really worthwhile. Now the last Eldar model that I'm going to show you is my Jetbike Warlock, sorry. So yeah, again, in the old days, Games Workshop had Warlocks on Jetbikes. There was no models, so you had to make your own ones. And I decided that I wanted to have Warlocks that were interchangeable on foot and on a Jetbike. So I came up with this idea. I used one of the Guardian platforms, and I magnetised the Warlock on there, like so, and he obviously sits on a normal base. And I have used some Jetbike bits, so underneath here you've got the Shuriken cannon, so you can still have it WYSIWYG just like a normal Jetbike. You'll probably notice that he has one arm missing, and that's because I made him again interchangeable with his weapons. So that was his original weapon. If I can find the magnet, there you go. So that's his original weapon. So I cut the arm off, and then I made my own singing spear, which goes on like so. And this is made from a Dire Avenger sword, cut up into little bits and just rejigged. And then the dangling cloth on his arm, that's made from green stuff. Yeah, you know, so all these little conversions can really bring a nice, unique feel to your army. And as I said, sometimes Games Workshop force you into making some conversions. Sometimes you can just do it for your own reasons. So let's move on now to Dark Eldar. So first of all, we have this one. Now this is a Dark Eldar Venom, although you may recognise it as a Eldar Viper. So yeah, basically I had some Vipers, and I converted them into Venoms, and it's a pretty simple conversion. I basically used some Dark Eldar bits just on the side and on the back, and also some little spiky bits here on the front. I magnetised the gun options just onto the tops there, so I thought it looked pretty cool rather than having it at the bottom, and it really does change it from a Viper. I've also put some magnets in this little seating area, so that I can magnetise my men on there as well. So yeah, again, you know, a bit of imagination. There may be a model that you want that maybe you can't afford. Go into your bits box, see what other models you've got, see if you can convert them up. And that's going to bring me nicely onto the other Eldar model that I've got, Dark Eldar model. and that is this one here. So this is the Raider stroke Ravager. So it's obviously an old model that I got cheap from eBay, and I basically got this section here which is magnetised, comes off, and this here, this little side section, is made from plasticard. I have a video of me making this in the archives. It's called How to Repair and Store Old Models. Yeah, I made this from plasticard. I actually put it in the oven and I curved it, so it's got a nice little curve to it, and then made these little side struts out of plasticard, and yeah, basically they magnetise. You can find the magnets. If I can find the magnets, there you go. They magnetise onto there. So I now have a Raider and a Venom. Of course I've got both sides done, I'm just showing you this side for now. So loads and loads of things to think about. I'm going to show you one more last Dark Eldar model just to show you some more basic conversions. So just zoom in. So this guy here, I basically took this arm and I've converted it to be a right hand. So basically I've got a left and a right hand with the same weapon, which you don't actually get in the kit. So I wanted like a double weapon with both arms, and again it's just a case of like cutting this off, and I've re-glued it back onto another arm. This thing had a gun on it, so I cut the gun off, and then I've put the bottom of a chain at the bottom there, which is from this section here. So now I have a whole new arm, and it's just little conversions like that, which again just really make your army quite unique. Okay, lastly we're going to look at Space Wolves. Now of course we are going to be building a Space Marine in the next video, so these models hopefully might give you a bit of an idea. First of all, I'm going to start just to show you my HQ, because I've got a lot of work in this. It's probably one of my early biggest conversions that I've done. So this model here is all metal. It's a Logan Grimnar metal body, which I cut his head off, and although they're all plastic now, I think I actually do this head in plastic. This was a metal head from one of the other characters, which I cut the head of the other character, including all this beard. It was a bit of a job, but I managed to do it. And stuck that on there, and also put the backpack with a wolf pout, which is my sort of banner system on my Space Wolves. So sometimes, yeah, chopping up a model, you just have to be a bit brave, and actually, in this case, I took a tiny little hacksaw to it to cut it off. So I thought I'd just show you him, because I'm quite proud of that little conversion. And then I'm just going to show you a couple of Grey Hunters here. So these Grey Hunters really just show what you can do with a Space Marine. A Space Marine doesn't just have to stand there holding his bolt gun. Here, as you can see, I've given him a bit of a story, which really helps actually to pose your models. So as you can see, he's got his sword there in the upper position, he's got blood all on it, he's looking up at it, he's howling, he's obviously just killed someone. And to kill that person, he took his hat off. He really wanted to see, he's looking into the person's eyes with his own eyes. So he took his hat off, helmet, he put it on the bottom, at the base there, and he's obviously killed his foe. He's looked up and he's given a howl. You know, it's just a little story just to really sort of change things up. And this guy here, I've changed his weapon. I actually gave him some Assault Marine legs, even though he's not Assault Marine, but it really helps just change the poses up. And of course, my Space Wolves, I was forced to do conversions because I had Chaos bits amongst my army. So, you know, I was chopping off legs, putting Chaos legs on, as well as Space Marine legs, etc. So, that's all the conversions that I've got here to show you. So I really hope you enjoyed looking at some of those. I hope that it maybe gave you some ideas of what you can do. As I said, it's just really, this video really is just an introduction into what is achievable, and in the next video I am going to take one of those Space Marines that we've cleaned up, and I'm going to try and take all of those techniques that we've talked about in the previous videos, and I'm going to build the model on camera and convert it, and hopefully we'll have a nice looking model to paint yeah, by the end of the next video. So that's it from me. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video.